I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, November the 15th, brought to you in part by the National Beef Wire. Go to nationalbeefwire.com and check out all the information that's there. Real-time market data, market news, weather, prices of all kinds on there, just anything that has to do with cattle on nationalbeefwire.com. A steady loss this week and just very disappointing. We were gaining so much ground almost every week, just gaining ground, had a lot of momentum in this market. Things were going along fine. We had a little hiccup in the board a whole week ago, but we were expecting that. We thought that we might have a little bit of a retracement of all the gains we've seen on the board lately, but it really wasn't much. And we come in this week and it looked like we were gaining ground again and everything was going really well. And then when the board took a bigger jump back, pull back there, everybody got scared. And they fell for steady money middle of the week when they should have stayed hooked, and you know, losing money on their hedges too, as far as your basis is, because you know, we're not even close to where the board's trading, and trading with a negative basis. So it wasn't a basis jumping deal or anything like that. It just guys got scared and they thought, man, we've been getting along so good. They just fell for that steady money and it stopped our momentum. It was a disappointing week. I'm talking about fat cattle now. We got the holidays coming now, so we're not likely to gain any more ground here between now and Thanksgiving. Then we'll have Christmas in December, but hopefully we'll have a couple of weeks in December there that we can kind of get back to gaining ground again. But we may have a little bit more pullback on the board here because we gained so much ground there, and now we see the board is kind of ripe to have a little bit more pullback. But I still think that towards the end of the year, and especially going into next year and working towards the spring, we've got a lot of ground to gain, and we hope to see a lot better markets as we move into 2020. But let's look at the board. On Thursday, December live cattle futures back up 97 cents after being down pretty hard on Wednesday there. But your December live cattle ended the day on Thursday at 119.07. February up 82 cents, ending the day at 124.92. November feeder cattle also come back up $1.05, not gaining near the ground that it lost on Wednesday, but gaining most of it back, 146.62. January up $1.22 at 144.05, and that's not nearly as much as it was down middle of the week. Your fat cattle trade continued on Thursday, you know, and they'd already give up the ghost there on Wednesday, but on Thursday we saw some more trade at 115. Both Southern Plains and Northern Plains, 115 was your prevalent number. That would be pretty much steady. And then we saw 116 again out west, and that would be steady also. Pretty much gained a buck on the dress trade though. 182 was the most prevalent number in the Northern Plains. And that would be mostly a buck higher, because the only 182 we saw last week was pretty much in your regional packers. But we saw the majors at 182 this week, and so it wasn't a complete flop. But man, we'd been gaining so much ground. We had so much inertia moving this market. I just hate to give it up. But Thursday's sellers actually lost a buck compared to Wednesday's sellers if they got out of their hedge, because with the board up nearly $1 on the front month, they didn't get as close to their hedges on their basis there as the guys did on their Wednesday sales. But you know, we've got December live cattle at 119, pretty much 119 even there, selling them at 115. So guys are losing an extra $4 on the basis there, and you would have thought they would have stuck their heels in the ground and stayed hooked and either watch that board drop back down closer to where cash is, or make the packers come back up a few more dollars to get closer to it. But we'll have to see a couple of more weeks here as we get closer into December before we get to see that basis kind of come back up to even. But box beef cutout values were also down on Thursday, and that's the first time they've been down significantly for quite a while. But choice cuts were down $1.28 at 241.06. Selects down 169 at 215.84. Your slaughter for the week 467,000 through Thursday. That's 3,000 off of last week and 6,000 less than the same week a year ago. We're looking forward to this Holcomb plant coming back online. From all accounts, it sounds like they're ready to come back online, but they're probably going to hide the fact that they come back in. Of course, everybody will know it, but they'll slip it in during a holiday week, like Thanksgiving or something like that, to kind of offset any bonus that it might give to the market or any betterness to demand. So that's kind of the way they'll handle that. You can rest assured. Your actual slaughter for the week ending November the 2nd there come in on your average dress steer weights at 903 pounds. That was 3 pounds lighter than that was the report before, so starting to come off of that a little bit, but it's been a little bit up and down. Look at your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index come in at 145.22, down 57 cents, and things started tailing off a little bit as we moved through the latter part of the week. Monday, we come in and the weather was so cold and blustery that it was a little bit off. And then Tuesday we had a lot of big premium sales. It was better. And then Wednesday was better. And now Thursday kind of off a little bit. But look at your biggest sales. Pratt, Kansas, winter livestock in Pratt, 2,700 head there. And they just kind of set a lower undertone as they didn't want to make the call there. Spots $3 lower. But look at this individual quote out of Pratt. 59 head of thinner type true yearling steers weighed 891 at 159 and a quarter. I don't know how you could say that quote and lower in the same paragraph, but awful good sale there on that one load of cattle there. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock, Salina, Kansas, 3,900 head there. It was better there. There's definitely better demand for feeder cattle in the northern plains than there is in the southern plains. Southern plains guys are kind of down because the wheat hadn't turned out quite as good as everybody thought it was going to be. Either they didn't get enough moisture, or the wheat that come up big early, the army worms come in there and ate up a lot of it. And it's then just kind of the way that the cold snaps fell, it kind of stunted that wheat a little bit, and it's not nearly as good as what we thought it was going to be. So you're getting up in the northern plains, and those guys are starting to park those combines. They've got them blowed off. They've power washed them and cleaned them up, put them in the back end of the shed. Now they're ready for their winter project, and they're coming in and buy some of these cattle, and they're really just going beyond what pencils out, which is what they normally do in the northern plains. But we saw some really stick out sales this week up in the northern plains as we saw more farmer feeders come into town, and they're not as scared of the big calves either, because there's been weather on those cattle, and we've had several cold snaps. Most of those cattle had snow on their backs. Even the weaned calves starting to find more friends in the northern plains on the better quality kind. Farmers, Ranchers, Livestock, like I said, 3,900 head, steady to $4 higher there at Salina, Kansas. Look at this individual quote here on some fancy calves. 76 head of 768 pound steers bring 164 and a quarter. Wow. Ogallala, Nebraska had another big sale. 5,000 head for them, and it was lower. You look at the market, and it was just lower. And there was very few weaned calves in the bunches. So they didn't have anything to really drive the market on any stick-out deals except for some peewee calves. And so it was lower, and that just left everything be lower. But they sell them so high out there in western Nebraska there at Ogallala that everybody was still pretty happy with the way things fell. But the only really stick-out sales they had at Ogallala was your peewee calves, and they really sold well. But you look at this one quote, 124 head, 450 pound steer calves in Ogallala, bring 201.50. And then this bunch here, a bigger bunch of a little bit lighter steers, 171 head of them, weighed 432 at 208.50. I want to give a shout out to a Feeder Flash gang member, Jamie Mattingly. He heard me talk about some Holstein steers. It might have been the first time I talked about any. He's from Chaplin, Kentucky there, and he said, hey, we sold some Holsteins there at Bluegrass Stockyard, South Stanford, Kentucky, and they were higher. There was a heck of a sale on some big Holsteins there in Stanford, Kentucky. 55 head, weighed 1043 at 95 and a dime. Pretty good sale on some big steins there. How about let's go out to Dickinson, North Dakota, and look at the sale. I told you a few weeks ago we're starting to get quotes from them, and it's sure good to see them. But look at Stockman's Livestock Exchange, East Dickinson, North Dakota, 114 head of 513-pound steer calves, bring 177 and a quarter. I'm coming to North Dakota this weekend up in Bismarck. You guys, if you're in the area, be sure and come to that independent beef producers meeting there at Bismarck, North Dakota. I'll be there on Saturday. So that's your Feeder Flash. We'll talk to you next week.